Welcome to the Becoming Body Smart podcast, where we unlock the secrets of sustainable health and fitness and help you master your health habits. If you're tired of quick fixes, generic blueprints, and chasing short-term results, you're in the right place. It's time to become Body Smart.
But no, we're excited to be here with you. So we wanted to talk today about mindset and why mindset matters. So mindsets are just so important in getting our mind right. And being able to, I think, just start us off on the right foot when we're trying to make a change or trying to do anything with our life. When we're decision making, we often start our decision making with the wrong mindset. And so we start letting our fears and insecurities and kind of those ways of thinking run the show instead of making key decisions. We always say making decisions instead of reactions to our situation is the key to being successful. And so our mindsets are often a big part of what drives that decision making. That if we our initial gut reaction to something is often based on our current mindset that we have, and we want to make concrete decisions instead of just reactions. And so by switching up our mindset, working on trying to think with a different mindset that's more in line with what we're trying to achieve and who we want to become, that can really help us get into a place where we're actually making decisions about the direction we want to head instead of just reacting to things in life and continuing to kind of go down the same path that we always have that may not have always worked well for us. And so that's kind of the idea. So we want to talk about a few key mindsets. Any thoughts, Mark, opening up here? Always.
Always thoughts, always something to say. So looking at mindset as the lenses that we see the world through. And I think understanding it in that way can help, right? We've all heard of the looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, right? But there's so many different lenses that we can look at the world through. And all of us have probably had the experience of like something really upset us. And then trying to make a decision when we're upset, like things turn out differently. It's a different cascade of choices when we have the mindset of anger, or when we're just feeling really tired and overwhelmed, or maybe we're really anxious, or maybe we're feeling depressed, or any of those different things, right? Or maybe we're feeling really great, and that way, we're really optimistic, and we're going to make different choices when we're looking at the world through that lens. And it's interesting because I bring this up all the time, but of this stark contrast of how I feel, how I look at the world, how I look at myself, how I look at relationships, when I'm more consistent in kind of those 5 patterns, and when I'm not, and when I'm able to step back and recognize, like, hey, I'm not feeling super hot, and being able to step back and problem solve those and be able to like get in a different mindset slowly can help me get out of that funk, right? And so I think just this principle of understanding that our thoughts really are very powerful. And part of the difficulty, I think, is that we don't always absorb mindsets by like, I'm going to choose this mindset consciously, right? These are the exact,
Right.
we tend to absorb them from the people and from the environments and circumstances around us. And so if we're not careful, we can actually absorb mindsets and implement those mindsets that are actually counterproductive to our goals. And so being mindful of our mindsets and the types of environments that we're placing ourselves in, right? We don't always get to choose those. But then, just being able to take a step back and think about the way that we're thinking can be really helpful in getting out of a funk and trying to make better choices. And so these are kind of the key ones that we identified. And that first one really is a very overarching one, right? This growth versus fixed mindset. And there's actually a really great book by Carol Dweck. It's called Mindset. Some of you might have read it, but it goes over these two kind of key mindsets and a bunch of different examples and how they show up and how they're implemented. And it's interesting because it tends to show up in a couple of different areas. And so for people that are really naturally talented, you see this in sports, you see this in academics, that when there's a lot of natural talent, right, people do really well. They're among the highest performers, but when they meet the limits of their natural talent and come up against that hard wall, it becomes difficult. Sometimes it becomes difficult for those people if they haven't followed it up by um, by working on those things that they're maybe not as good at, right? When we rely only on natural talent and we come up to the limits of that, sometimes it's really depressing or really defeating. And when we don't have to work, I guess it's hard for being where we're at. It can be really easy to fall in that fixed mindset, right? I only can go so far. I only know this much. I'm not good here. I'm only good here, right? When we find ourselves using words like always, never, only about ourselves or about our opportunities, about our abilities, that's a really good key that we're beginning to kind of stray into a fixed mindset, versus like, I can't yet, right? Or I have some work to do, right? Some of those words that show a little bit more uncertainty can actually be positives because it shows that we're open to working on those things and we're open to growth and open to change. And so I think that just understanding that difference between um, fix and growth is a really good one because none of us is all one way, right? None of us is all growth and none of us is all fix. So like a great example for me, like science was always an easy subject for me, right? I really enjoyed those classes. I excelled in them. And even when it got hard, it was fun for me. It was a challenge. And so like I wanted to get better. I wanted to learn. And that's still an area that I love. Sports, I just didn't play a bunch of sports growing up. And so like I definitely have some fixed beliefs around that. Like, oh yeah, my hand-eye coordination is just terrible, or my ability to do this is just like I just can't do that, right? I couldn't become better at basketball or volleyball or this, right? I just don't know how to set a volleyball. I could never, right? So it shows up in different areas, and so that's the interesting thing too is um, being able to kind of identify those for yourself, right? What are the areas that I believe in my ability to meet challenges, that I believe in the ability to learn and to grow and to get better, and what are areas that I tend to say that like I'm no good, like, I can't do that, that's so hard. One of the ones that I hear all the time is either like, oh, I'm terrible at math, or I'm terrible at English, or again, anything that we're telling ourselves I'm terrible at, like maybe we are, right? Like I can say that I'm just terrible at ping pong. That's a great example, right? But can I get better? Absolutely. Can I learn? Absolutely. Are there people that could help me become better? Absolutely. And so being able to identify those things can help you identify some areas for improvement and to work on that mindset so that you can shift it into more of that growth mindset.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Having that growth mindset is so critical. Um, being willing to grow even is so critical. So I think that's part of achieving that growth mindset is being willing to push yourself outside of your comfort zone to grow versus kind of feeling like uh, I'm stuck here because I don't want to be uncomfortable. Because that is the one thing with um, growth. But I think there's a whole other mindset is seeing that discomfort as exciting because we're trying something new and whatever, seeing that as exciting versus terrifying, right? And that's a hard mindset to shift. But we can see that as something fun and exciting. We like to learn things that are new within the areas that we feel comfortable and we find that exciting. We often don't like to learn and feel that excitement of learning something new in areas that we feel like are a struggle for us. we feel like learning something where we know we're going to be good at it at the end is much more exciting for us than learning something new that is we're still going to maybe not be excellent at, but we'll actually see more change in ourselves, um, more improvement, a larger, change from baseline. And yet that's less exciting to us often than making a 1 or 2% change in something we're already good at. So it's fascinating. So the next mindset that we have on there is the scarcity versus prosperity, and it kind of goes along with growth versus fixed mindset of having this idea that there's always room for more, and that there's enough of everything to be able to keep growing. So the prosperity versus scarcity mindset, it really changes the way you market, the way you market yourself, all of those things. As an employee, as an employer, if you have this mindset that there's only one right person out there for this job, or as if you have this mindset of there's only kind of, yeah, I don't know, there are limited resources versus infinite resources out there, and you just have to connect with them. It really does change your whole view on the world. So one of those key things to look at is with your time. If you're okay with the fact that things are going to take you some time to make changes in your life, and that it doesn't have to all be right now, then we have this prosperity of time. I've got time to make this change. It's not going to be all right now. It's going to be over time, and that's going to be okay. And I've got plenty of time to make those changes in myself if I just start taking those steps now. Versus scarcity is like, oh, you don't have enough time to make these changes. So you're just never going to get there. You're never going to learn that thing or do that thing that you want to do or change that mindset that you want to change or whatever. You just don't have enough time. Versus I'm going to find the time and be okay with the fact that this is going to take months maybe to master, instead of, get it figured out this weekend. I'm going to figure out how to be a fit, healthy, active person this weekend, right? It doesn't work that way. It's going to take some time, and you have that time if you're willing to just be consistent with taking it. And so it's kind of a mindset thing of I've got enough, there's enough to accomplish what I need to do, versus there's never enough. And it often makes people kind of have a weird mindset of that their dollar is worth more than your dollar, or things like that, because they're always afraid that you're going to take from them, that there's, not enough in my world, that there's not enough patience to go around. There's a lot of providers that struggle to refer to other people and things like that, and they want to see every person that comes through their door, because they want to, make that money from working on that patient, and versus getting that patient to the person that could serve them the very best. It's the right patient for them. And that's based on a scarcity mindset, where they're trying to be everything to everybody, versus saying, hey, look, this is the type of patients that I see, because there's enough people out there for me to be prosperous and for somebody else to be prosperous too. So I'm going to send you to the person that does that thing the very best. And so those types of mindsets of there's always enough, I'm not lacking the key resources that I need. I just have to find ways to connect with them. And that mindset really does change how we view everything. Thoughts on that, Mark, the scarcity versus prosperity mindset?
Yeah, I'm thinking of kind of my experience in grad school with the experience of people in maybe more competitive programs, right? So this idea of like competition versus collaboration.
Yeah.
And that there's some academic programs, and honestly, like a lot of academia in the like tenure track and research is like you want to hold on to your own results. You don't want to share. You don't want to collaborate, because it might mean the difference between your project getting funded or someone else's. And so it actually limits the progress of of people's work and honestly the progress of science. I remember working in a research lab in my undergraduate
Hmm.
years, and the level of dysfunction was unparalleled. I'd never seen anything like that about these just brilliant individuals who refused to work with one another, right? Their interpersonal skills were just abhorrent. It was wild to watch, right? Here I am, like 22 years old, and I'm watching people in their like 40s and 50s unable, unwilling to just work with one. It was wild. It was wild to watch. And there were a couple of them that were just like they loved helping other people. And so everyone wanted to, this was the hilarious thing. Everyone wanted to work with those people. They wanted to collaborate with them. The people who were like unwilling to share with one another, right? With like a few of these individuals who really wanted to make the whole team better, like people would kind of like clamor to work with them. It's fascinating, right? By and large, they didn't want to work with each other, but these individuals who like showed a willingness to collaborate and to build something together, they were a little bit more willing. And then again, like looking at my own class and how close knit we were as a group, and we were always trying to help one another. And I remember there was this one class that several people failed the first exam, and like us working as a class, like we didn't want them to not get to move on with us, right? We wanted to be able to share that experience of moving forward as a class. And so coming together and like trying to study and build study guides and work in a way that we could all succeed together. One of so this is a mindset that Cameron has, and I've always loved it. One of the things he says all the time is that a rising tide raises all ships, right? And so when we have that belief that we can all grow together, that we can all benefit from something together, it actually increases our chances of success and makes it a lot more fun along the way. And again, I think this is one of those areas that people don't tend to be all prosperity minded or all scarcity minded. Right? There's probably different areas. For some of us, the scarcity shows up in finance. For some of us, it shows up in relationships. Right? For some of us, it shows up in different areas. But again, I think with any of these it can be hard to shift into any of these mindsets alone. And so identifying people that have some of those mindsets, right? Who do we know that has a growth mindset? Who do we know that has a prosperity mindset? Who do we know that has proper positivity or is able to look at these things from a different angle? Who has kind of a proven track record of working within the mindset that we want, and finding opportunities to be around those people, and whether it's just a friendship, whether it's an informal or a formal mentorship, right? Finding ways. Some of the ways that we get exposed to those mindsets is just by reading. There's a lot of junk information out there, but there's also a lot of good information out there, right? People who've written across the centuries that we can develop some of that mindset in ourselves as we expose ourselves to their words and to their thoughts. And so, yeah, that's that's where I'm at
Yeah.
with the scarcity.
Yeah, no, I love that. So Leslie has an example when she was student teaching. She said, I asked another teacher if I could copy some of the songs that she had taught the kids. She told me no, she wouldn't share them with anyone. So that kind of thing, right? Of like, no, there are only a limited number of fun songs that I could show the kids. For my kids, it's like we're probably going to work in different counties or different states, or like who knows. Why wouldn't you share those? Like, no, these are my songs and I don't share them with other people. Yeah, that kind of thing, like that there's a limit. And what she did was limit you from like sharing the fun songs that you had with her that she maybe really loved, or sharing anything else. So that's one of the things, by having kind of that closed mindset of there's only so many resources to go around. We limit other people's kind of charity and generosity back towards us. We cut ourselves off from their resources and their um, ability to bless our lives as well. So it really does limit us in a lot of ways. So we've talked about this next mindset a little bit before, and it looks like we've got a go pretty quickly. Number 4, we've talked about a bunch: all or nothing versus always something. Always something. With your fitness, with most things in life, always something. But the all on me versus all on we, and the positivity versus toxic optimism, we want to hit just really quick. So positivity versus toxic optimism. That is an interesting mindset to have. It's good to be positive. It's good to stay positive, and where you're trying to, not get too down on yourself. I think it has a lot to do with that growth mindset. Positivity does. Of like, yeah, we can figure this out. There's enough resources out there to make this happen. We just have to find them and put them in place, and it's going to be great. And that's good to stay positive. At the same time, we can often find ourselves, positivity people like myself, can often have toxic optimism, where we either alienate those around us by being optimistic all the time, and not acknowledging or seeing struggle or grief or discomfort or pain, and just being like, you just have to be positive, it's going to be okay, buck up, little camper. That often becomes very negative to other people, actually, your overflowing positivity. And it also doesn't take into account reality. And so it's good to be positive, but you have to also be positive within the realm of reality, and not have just this toxic positivity that makes you unable to see the obstacles and things in front of you, and have a dose of realism. So that's a hard balance, being realistic versus and while staying positive. And so you definitely want to avoid the toxic optimism, where you're kind of just that annoyingly positive, sticky sweet person all the time, but that then can't see reality, and can't see others' reality. I think is a big problem there. But being positive enough to kind of, the keyword or the buzzword right now is manifest the things that you want to have happen in your life. Um, I think positivity does help you get where you want to go, though, because you're able to keep working on it without becoming discouraged, and you realize that there is room for growth and that there is prosperity out there. I think all of those things kind of follow the same vein of like, you can accomplish what you want to. You can, there is possibility for growth. It is all very related to a growth mindset, and that there are enough resources out there for you to grow. And so that's what positivity is all about. But positivity has to be balanced by reality. Otherwise, it just becomes toxic optimism, I guess. There you go. There's the short way of saying that I just took 5 minutes to say. That's what I do. Thoughts there, Mark?
Yeah, I want to talk about that last one real quick, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Is that all on me versus all on we?
Yeah.
So each of us have a range of different responsibilities, and some of us it feels like a crushing amount of responsibilities at times, right? But sometimes we develop a mindset like, I have to do it all myself, or I need to do it all myself, or we say yes to too many things, right? And recognizing that, like, while that's awesome to push ourselves and to work to expand our abilities and our energy, right, is that being able to share and to collaborate with other people can help to ease some of those, like some of that burden, right? It doesn't have to be all on us. And it's this kind of spectrum from like dependence on one hand, right? That we have to rely completely on everyone for everything. And sometimes what happens is then we go, well, independent, right? I want to be my own person and make my own choices, right? And we think that that's like the highest level that we can get to, right? Like, oh, I'm independent. I can do it all on my own. But the level above that is actually interdependence, right? Being able to work with other people and to collaborate and to create together, right? This idea of co-creation, that we bring our best to the table and other people bring their best to the table, and that our weaknesses are filled in by their strengths, and our strengths help fill in their weaknesses. and so that we accomplish more together than we could on our own, right? The whole becoming more than the sum of its parts. And so with all of these mindsets though, like even this idea of like it's one or the other is a mindset, right? Like that there's only two choices. But when we begin to develop our mindsets and we try to move more into that growth mindset, we begin to find that there's many opportunities to reach an outcome, right? It's not only two choices, right? There's a lot of different ways that we can go about that. And so understanding that it's rarely like this dichotomy, right? Either one or the other. Most things exist on a spectrum. And can we move towards one spectrum or are we moving towards the other end of the spectrum? And so I think that's just like, there's so many different choices available to us, and being able to recognize what some of those different choices are. And when we come to decisions, not always narrowing it down to just one or the other, right? Are there different ways that I can think about this? Are there different options? Are there different viewpoints that I'm missing out on? And who has those viewpoints that I can talk to that can help kind of expand my vision? And so just recognizing that in each of us, there are probably mindsets that are helping us and that are hurting us, right? Mindsets that are moving us towards our goals and mindsets that are holding us back. And so as we take a look at those and consider what's working in our favor and what's not, it can help us make decisions and help us to surround ourselves with people that will help us move in the direction that we want, and to help us become the type of people that we want and show up in the way that we'd like to.
Yeah, I agree, Mark. I think that's great. That working on those mindsets sometimes first can help us get ourselves in the right frame of mind to be able to accomplish what we're looking to accomplish. That we can really like then actually be successful at what we're looking to accomplish, because we mentally got ourselves out of our own way. I think that's important. One of those things that, as far as the all on me versus all on we, that I think is really helpful is that book by Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy called Who Not How. So I posted that in there so that people can remember. But that book, Who Not How, was really, really helpful for me, realizing like, oh, it doesn't all have to be on me. I can find the resources. I can find the people that can help me accomplish what I'm looking to accomplish. And they can help me do it better, faster, more complete than I could have ever imagined. So it doesn't have to always all be on me. And again, I think that just is plays into that abundance and growth mindset. I think it all kind of comes back to that idea that there's enough time, resources, people that can help. There's enough help out there, and that's part of the growth process, is getting the help that we need, and all those things. I think that's all part of that kind of same chain of thought of just of knowing that you can change and that there's enough resources and whatever for you to be able to change. And it's just taking that 30,000 foot view again, like we talked about, to be able to see the big picture and to see the way that we can fit those changes into our lifestyle and switch up those mindsets so that we can set ourselves up for success, so that we're not always feeling like we're playing from behind. Anyway, so those are some of the key mindsets that we talk a lot with people about. I've thought of some others while we're talking, and there's a lot of really good mindset shifts that we can have, and so yeah, we'll probably revisit this topic at some point in time. But wanted to thank you all for joining us this morning, bright and early, right after the time change, and so that's always tough. Even though we got more sleep 2 days ago, it still feels weird to have it be dark at like 5 o'clock at night. Never loved the time shift. But anyway, hopefully you enjoy your morning this morning and are able to have an awesome week. And we look forward to seeing you on the call tomorrow evening. See you then.
See you then.
Thanks for listening to the Becoming Body Smart podcast. If you have questions, thoughts, or want to continue the conversation, Reach out to us on our socials or join our community. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us bring you even more valuable content. Remember, sustainable health is a lifelong journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Live longer, live stronger, and become Body Smart.